Hey everybody from Beantown to your town. This is the
Beantown Beatdown.
I'm Matthew Burris.
Gabe Shamus, also from Beantown.
Yep, and we're going to start with our beverages.
Mhm.
And by the way, I have been clean and sober for about a month.
Here's
That's
to
right.
that.
1 month of sobriety. I mean, of course, it was a real bitch when my Patriots destroyed the Cowboys, but
Tell it, brother.
oh yeah, it was a real bitch because I was over at the Tasty Burger in Harvard Square. I was watching the game and I had some French fries, and I look at as I'm going down to the bar area, I see that they're serving Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I'm just like, oh fuck, why of all days?
Why of all days? But you pushed on. You
Mhm.
pushed on. So.
Well, it's like I've always told you, and I've always told my mom, there's never a bad time to quit smoking, but there's always a bad time to quit drinking. This was one of those times. Actually, this is a real bad time, even though I'm doing that experiment. But I got I got college basketball coming up. I got a lot of games on the Pat schedule. The Cotto versus Alvarez fight, Ronda Rousey's fight coming up in November. So it's gonna be a real bitch. Sobriety is a bitch. But
sobriety is a bitch. Here's to it being a bitch.
Yep, yes it is. And speaking of Ronda Rousey, we're going to start with some headlines. First and foremost, as you guys already know, Ronda Rousey is dating Travis Brown, fellow UFC fighter. He's a heavyweight contender. And
that must be something. That's not the usual type of Hollywood celebrity thing going on between them, I guess. Nope.
Yeah. But now, of course, Travis Brown, he was accused of abusing his wife. I mean, they're at separation. He's trying to get a divorce. There's accusations of domestic violence, domestic abuse. The UFC did their own independent investigation. They found out there was not enough evidence. So, of course, he's been cleared by the UFC, but in the court of law, there's I don't know if there's been a trial yet or whatever. But as for Ronda, Ronda, of course, it's been said that Ronda's been being harassed by Travis Brown's wife on Twitter about it.
Really?
Yeah, she's accusing her of saying okay, you talk bad about Floyd Mayweather and his past with domestic violence, but you're with a married man who's known for domestic violence. And I don't know all the details about this. I don't know all the details, but but here's the thing: if you're talking, do you really want to talk bad about Ronda Rousey? Do you really want to talk real shit about her, knowing what she can do and what she's done in the past? I mean, do you really want to fuck with her?
It's a good question. Good question. I have no clue what's going on there either, but it's interesting to bring up.
Yeah, Travis did confirm it, saying that she's my woman and I'm her man. As for Ronda said, quote, that I don't like to talk about my personal life because there's a reason why it's personal, but all I will say is that me and Travis, yes, we are together. Yeah, I mean,
it's a crazy thing. I mean, there's all these. I was just thinking, there's all these movies and TV shows about how our whole idea of what relationship means and what marriage means and what all that means. That it's changing. It's kind of scandalous. I don't know. It's weird that I can understand that things are changing, but I don't not always on board with screwing up too much of other people's lives with what you do within your relationship. Yeah. So.
And plus, the thing about Ronda Rousey is, Ronda Rousey being small, 135 pounds, Travis Brown a heavyweight, maybe 225, 230. I mean, can you imagine the sex they have? You think?
I'm glad you went there instead of where you could have gone. So thank you.
Hey, you think Ronda is a bottom or a top?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. As someone who evaluates bottoms and tops in a very different way, that's a tough one.
Yeah, if Travis is on the top and Ronda's on the bottom, I guarantee you, a guy that size, the bed is definitely going to be breaking. So like,
Who knew we were going to get on this topic? You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
With the beatdown.
Exactly. And also in more news, keeping up with Ronda, and I read this in an article. Well, she was doing an interview for New York Times, and apparently she has been getting fat shamed.
Really?
Yeah, what? Because there have been reports saying that
A, what, and B, by who? I don't understand this.
They're saying that she looked. They said for a commercial she shot. She didn't name it, but said someone mentioned oh, you looked a little too fat, and there's just been stuff on the internet telling about her body, how it's all muscular and stuff like that. And she said that for the commercial,
supposed to be muscular or dumb bags.
Yeah, I mean, and she did say that she gained a few pounds for the commercial on purpose. Mm-hmm. And she said her boobs looked nice. Her boobs looked a lot bigger than they normally were. And she says that as a fighter, sometimes I have, for my conditioning and stuff, I have to choose between my waist and my breast. Having a good waist or a good breast, I can't have both. But she did say this in a statement, and I truly believe her when she says that. She says, if I hear another person refer to me as fat, I'm going to fucking kill them.
She's out for some blood.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And you know what? I know there are laws and there's society, and, you definitely don't want fighters beating internet bloggers and stuff like that because, they call them a few names.
No.
But, with Ronda, I wouldn't blame her. It'd be like, remember one of Chris Rock's comedy specials when he talked about OJ, and he said, I'm not saying he should have killed her, but I understand. That's how I feel with Ronda. If I was Ronda's attorney, I'd be like, Ronda, what you did is considered a crime here in America, and you might have to do some jail time, but just to let you know, I understand.
All right. Anyway, I have to go take care of something, but you're wrapping up the headlines?
Yeah, and I got one more headline here, and this is concerning Floyd Mayweather. Rumor has it that Floyd Mayweather will come back in 2016 for a fight. They're saying he could come back to fight Adrian Broner, his protege, or that he will come back and fight Manny Pacquiao. I don't believe either one of those rumors. I think Mayweather is fine. He wants to focus more on being a father, work on the promotion side of Mayweather Promotions. I don't think he's coming back. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did come back, because I love watching Floyd Mayweather.
Right. But, all right, so, I mean, again, we talked about this last time, that he said it was just a rumor, but I read it in this magazine, so was it a rumor that he would have fought Ronda, and, if he came out for that, out of retirement for that, how would you feel?
I would call it ridiculous because, it'd
be a spectacle at that point.
Yeah, it'd be a spectacle at this point, and, and the way it is now with domestic violence and, not only in the NFL, but just in life now, it's just, it just wouldn't fly. It just, it definitely wouldn't fly. I could not see that fight ever happening. I don't think anybody in their right minds would, and
so, so that's an interesting thing. Has there ever been a co-ed fight? And if there were, I think a lot of people would feel uncomfortable with it. And where does that come from?
It's just like the typical battle of the sexes, who's better, men or women. But, scientifically, men and women are different. Men are 10 times stronger than women. I mean, yeah, in martial arts, I mean, I've been tapped
It
out by
depends though, because some of your geeks, sorry, you don't have the muscle mass.
yeah, I mean, I've been tapped out by a girl. I've been put in an arm bar, and I got my arm hyperextended. It was to the point where I couldn't even lift up a coffee mug.
Mm.
But I cannot see that fight happening. I do not see Floyd ever coming out of retirement for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd is going to stay retired, and he's
Yeah.
just going to count his money.
I was thinking about it in the movies too. Like they haven't even done it in the movies, and I was thinking about. I read the books Divergent. I think I talked about that on the show once, and the movie and stuff. And there's a lot of different fights in that movie, but there was supposed to be one between Peter and Triss, and I don't think they had that because been she's a smaller teenage girl. He's a tall man. I guess he's only a year older, but still, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they would have had it.
All right, so now we're going to get into Gabe's segment, Macho Doesn't Mean This. So,
Okay.
Gabe?
Yep. All right. So
away.
once again, Macho doesn't mean this. We have to go through and re-educate. It's part of what we're doing here. And so I guess I'm just going to do a extended version of what I did last time. We're going to talk even more about get over yourself. Get over yourself. That's something I have to say to all the guys that think stopping to help someone is an inconvenience. That just roll their eyes when it comes to helping someone on the street or having to wait your turn or I've talked about chick flicks, different types of movies than the bro movies. All this stuff we need to rethink, why we're being told, what macho means, and it's really what we've been told that macho means. I think I said that in my first segment of this. What we've been told that macho means is not the same thing that people used to be told what manhood means. And so it's interesting that there was a lot more of, you're the protector, you take care of your own. There's a lot more of, go out there and be the best you can be. Not just the best you can be, but so that you can help someone else. The knight and the damsel in distress. Nowadays we focus on the weapons, the, battle strategy. Those are great things. But guess what? The knight, the whole taking off your hat came up from a knight taking off his helmet back in the day. You take off your helmet coming past a lady.
Oh, yeah. Camelot.
Camelot, exactly. What do they do? Take off their helmet. And even bow your head after your helmet's taken off, I think. Mm-hmm. So that type of thing is these little examples of something that's a much bigger picture and that we should be focusing on. We should be telling men to take off their hat, even though there's some people say there's like these sexist connotations with it, because now we know that women can do as much. I think there's also there was an element of get over yourself when it comes to that. The reason that came about and the reason that it actually was helpful in that society is an element of get over yourself. Take off your hat, and you show respect to the ladies when they come by. All those types of things, I think, are something that we should still be teaching. And again, I don't agree that if there's a household with a mother, household with a father, the man has to be the protector in this way, and the woman has to be the whatever in this way, and the man has to be the breadwinner. That's all. I also think that's outdated gender roles. But at the same time, men were taught to be a protector. Men were taught to be a provider. And that's something that we've almost completely lost, except for the provider thing. We've kept the provider. We kept the idea of, be the provider, breadwinner, go out, do the job, this, and that. But we lost the protector, the fireman is the one, not only the one who puts out the fires, but gets the cat up in the trees. It's all sorts of things like that. The knight, kills the bad people, but takes off his helmet. And the ladies coming by and pays respect also to the court, the king and the court, and it was part of their society. It was part of their understanding of the collective. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's good. both men and women can be protectors. I mean, it doesn't have to be either or. Especially in today's world now. Exactly.
Exactly.
And one other thing about the get over yourself, and I actually read this. I actually read this online article on like yesterday. On get over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
One reality star that needs to get over herself now is Abby Lee Miller. Because here's the thing, I was reading. Apparently,
is this the dance moms chick again?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she's being indicted for withholding funds, and she declared bankruptcy.
Oh lordy!
Yeah, she was withholding money.
So
she was withholding money from her spin-off shows and for Dance Moms and stuff. Apparently, she's been withholding money, and she is facing 5 years in prison. Now, here's the thing. I do not wish jail on anybody. I mean, personally, I have never been to jail. I have known people who have been in jail, who have been in prison. It is, if you ever watch Lock Up on MSNBC, it is no joke.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Yeah.
But for a woman like Abby Lee Miller, who's known for yelling at kids, making them cry, fighting with adults and stuff, it's like, you know what? Could have happened to a nicer woman. Right.
So I mean, yeah, and so I mean that's an interesting thing. That's sort of putting it on its face. That yes, I also think that it's not just the men who have been most guilty of this patriarchal society. Actually, there are some women that are just as guilty, and she's clearly one of them. When she thinks that she has to put children in their place, that's a terrible idea, and that comes from
exactly
terrible societies back in the day. But anyway, so so she is exactly the same type of person that I would say, even though you're a woman, you were taught, you were taught to scream at people, you were taught to belittle people, all this stuff. So you as well need to get over yourself.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen past episodes where she's talked about her mom, and her mom, of course, passed like last year. God rest her soul. But I've seen in the past episodes in early seasons, she'd be like, if I ever missed the step, my mom would have beaten me with the comb, with the spike. The little spike
comb.
Yeah, with the spike comb, or my mom would have beaten me for not saying hello. Would have beaten me for saying hello, for not saying hello when I entered into a room. And I mean, clearly she has some issues, and
yeah, clearly she does.
Yeah, and also, and here's the thing: jail does humble people. I mean, if there's one good thing you can say about jail, it does humble people, because when you go in, now you're surrounded with murderers and rapists, and that you're in there with straight killers. I mean, some of them they're never getting out. They're never getting out, or some are on death row. It's like, hey, I'm gonna die in here anyway, so what do I have to lose if I kill somebody in here? I got nothing but time. And let me tell you something. Abby, she's not gonna be able to yell and scream, at these people. If she does that whole like dingbat or tries to boss people around, she's getting that beat down. And security guards, they don't play. I mean, like, I do know that some security guards are not trying to be like super cops. Most security guards, it's like, if they respect the inmates, the inmates will give them respect. But if she tries to be all prancy and she tries to act the way she acts out here, because she's always demanding star treatment and and stuff like that. She always says like, "Oh, I was a star." People, it just took a long time for people to know that I was a star. They ain't gonna fly there in jail.
Exactly. So so there are some women that need to be taught the same lesson, unfortunately. I guess the other thing I was going to say about that is that I've noticed, again, we're trying to steering away from the political, but I do notice that there were a trend in some of the last Republican primaries where the most conservative women would then say to either the Democrat on the other side, or the one they were trying to primary. They would say like these really sexist things. They didn't realize that they were saying like really sexist things to the guys.
And by they, you mean Donald Trump, don't you?
No, this was actually before Donald Trump.
Okay.
Or no, like I'm talking last election cycle. So Donald Trump was in the beginning, and then he faded out. And I'm talking like Christine O'Donnell. I'm talking what's her name in Missouri. Anyway, what they would say is, Sharon Angle in Nevada as well. She would say, "Man up, Harry Reid," or put your man pants on, Christine O'Donnell, or like I forget, as well, Bachman, that's her name, and Bachman in Missouri or Minnesota, Anyway, so the funny thing is that in that case, I don't care that they're women. I think they're actually just as guilty of being far too macho and not getting over themselves.
Yeah, and also remember that time when Ann Coulter, she called one of the politicians a faggot.
Oh yeah,
of
course, Ann Coulter. Yeah.
Yeah, what was his name? I forget his name.
God knows. I'm not. I don't care. I'm sure she's done it multiple times.
Yeah, and you know what? It was funny because Jim Norton did a joke on it, and the guy's response to it was, "I have no opinion on Ann Coulter," and Jim goes, "How can you not have an opinion on her? She just told the whole world on national TV that you suck dicks."
Well, it's good. It's good that he didn't give her any more power. I mean, that's actually the best response. I don't have an opinion. I have nothing to say about that. That's a phrase I've actually recently had to use in my life, and I've decided that that's an important phrase for protecting yourself and for it humbles you, but also is very powerful and gets people off your back. I have nothing to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. And and one more thing on the Abby Lee Miller thing. Let me tell you something. I mean, she really is going to be heading for prison, and if she's, she better act up. I mean, she better straighten up and fly right, because otherwise she's going to wind up knowing the true meaning of tossing a salad. And by that, it's not the type you see on the Food Network where Johnny De Laurentiis is having
I fakely got what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, good lordy.
Yeah, well, that was a good segment, Gabe, and very entertaining and funny.
Thank you.
And now this is our blast from the past, and coming up is the 25-year anniversary, October 11th, 1990, when Evander Holyfield defeated James Buster Douglas for the heavyweight title. Yeah,
here we
and
go.
we talked about Buster Douglas a few times on this show. We talked about him on Unsung Heroes of Boxing, and of course the anniversary of when he knocked out Mike Tyson. And this was his first title defense for the his heavyweight title.
He's defending the title, and that's always high pressure.
Well, yeah, because James Buster Douglas was coming off, shocking the world. He just defeated the baddest man on the planet. Evander Holyfield, by this time, he was a real heavyweight. He was a former cruiserweight champion, moved up to the heavyweights in the late 80s. Beat Alex Stewart and beat some opponents to get up into the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
And his first fight for the heavyweight title, it took place at the Mirage, and it was outside, and Evander Holyfield knocked Buster Douglas out with a right cross. I mean, Douglas just went for this uppercut, and Holyfield just stepped back and just bam, blasted him. That right hand shot, it was just amazing. And Douglas, he was just down and out. And the thing about that fight is Douglas didn't really train for that fight.
No,
because after the fight with Tyson, he was still doing a lot of press tour and doing the news. He was, there was a video game that came out about him, for Sega. I remember that. Of course, that was years after that fight.
Right.
But and Evander, he was ready to fight. Evander Holyfield, he came to fight that night. But of course, for Holyfield, that was bad for Holyfield because even though he had won the heavyweight title and he beat Buster Douglas, people still thought of Mike Tyson as still the heavyweight champion, and people were saying, "Well, you're not really the champion until you beat Tyson."
Mm.
Now, I'm a firm believer in going back to the old professional wrestling, Ric Flair, to be the man. Woo! You've got to beat the man.
Mm.
Buster Douglas beat the man.
Mm-hmm.
Evander Holyfield beat the man that beat the man, so that makes Evander Holyfield the man.
Mm.
But until that fight happened, the first fight happened in '96.
Right.
You know, it was like people didn't really want to give Holyfield credit.
Mm.
You know, because even when he had title defenses afterwards and the fights with Riddick Bowe, people were saying, "Well, you're still not considered a real champion because you didn't beat Tyson. You didn't fight Tyson." And that's hard. You know,
It is. But yeah, I'd say if there, strictly as someone who's an outsider to a lot of this, I'd say that I actually, of course everyone's heard of Tyson. You can't not have heard of Tyson. But, if there was one big name outside of all that, it was Holyfield. I mean, there are cutouts of him, There's like the whole, isn't he involved in a Foot Locker promotion or something?
No, I don't. No,
Okay.
no. You're thinking of Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah. Okay. But still, there was like a lot going on. We talked about the moment when UFC was brought up in Friends, the television show Friends. They also had a cutout of Evander Holyfield, which they never. Even though everyone knew about Tyson, they never did have a cutout of him in one of the episodes.
Well, yeah, and the heavyweight division by that time in the '90s, there was Lennox Lewis coming off the Olympics. Eventually, he would become champion. George Foreman was making a comeback.
Uh-huh.
There was Riddick Bowe. He was still rising in the ranks. There was Holyfield, and then there was Tyson. And even though Mike Tyson lost, he was still a big box office draw. There was even talks of a dream fight between Foreman and Tyson, which Mike Tyson would have destroyed him. George would have made it out of the first round of that fight. But
so I guess it's good for his grill sales that he didn't do it.
Well, yeah, and they just didn't give Evander Holyfield the props. Even when he won the title back from Riddick Bowe in the rematch, and he was a two-time world champion. People still believe that Tyson was the real champion, and that Tyson had an off night, against Buster Douglas, because it proved that Buster Douglas really wasn't that great of a fighter. He just had one night, just one night of magic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I saw Sports Century on Evander Holyfield, and one of his trainers said about comparing Holyfield to Tyson. It's like, here I am, I'm offering people classical music, but all they want to hear is rap.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like Evander Holyfield was classical music, and Mike Tyson is rap.
Well,
oh yeah,
it's hard to argue with that, actually.
Well, yeah, but of course, eventually Holyfield did fight Tyson, beat him.
Right.
First fight, second fight, got his ear bitten off. But Evander Holyfield has proven to be a great champion. He is right up there with the best heavyweights. Mike Tyson, of course, a two-time champion, and eventually, we all know the sad ending to that story. But it's still a good fight to look up. And Buster Douglas has done well for himself. In fact, he was in Cincinnati, Ohio for the Adrian Broner fight a couple weeks ago. So, he's from Columbus, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so Ohio has a lot of great boxers that come out of there. Broner, Douglas, Gary Pryor, and Ray Boom Boom Mancini from Boise, Idaho. No, not Boise, Youngstown. Sorry, Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay.
So,
yep, cool.
But it's a good fight to look up. Look it up on YouTube whenever you get a chance.
All right, awesome. And with that, we're moving on to our debate of the evening.
That's right, the debate. And this debate is on the price of pay-per-view fights.
Right.
Now, I have cable. I get a weekly allowance, because of my Asperger's and stuff. So for the most I paid for a fight was like in the hundreds, like maybe $100 something. That was for the Mayweather Pacquiao fight.
Mm-hmm.
Second would have to be 70 for. Well, no way, I didn't pay. I didn't pay for the Mayweather Berto fight. I saw that in a friend's house. But I have paid like in the 50s and the 60s on fights, and my mom. This drives my mom crazy.
Up the wall, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, because you'll tell her like how much a fight is, and sometimes she'll be like, "What? Fights didn't cost this much back in the 80s and 90s," and really, it really didn't. It's like the popularity of pay-per-view events. As they become more popular, they jack up the prices.
Right.
Me personally, I have no problem paying with it, but I do feel like at the same time there should be a limit. My limit is no more than $55. It should just be $55 tax free, and that should be the cost of pay-per-view events.
Okay. But you do believe that given the amount of effort that they have to do, and the popularity and things like that, that is semi reasonable for them to be up at the top of that, to be up in the 40s, 50s.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Mayweather Pacquiao fight I understood because Mayweather's before then Mayweather's fights with Maidana, those two fights on pay-per-view, they didn't bring in enough revenue. They didn't match the sales that his fight with Canelo Alvarez did. So it was Showtime's. Plus, this was a fight everybody had wanted to see. HBO, Showtime. Yeah. It was just their way of saying, okay, we need our money. We want our money. So.
Right. So anyway, I'm going to say that I do agree with your reasoning, but when it comes to that they jack up the price of for popularity's sake, I do not agree with that, and I'm going to steer it even lower than that. So again, trying to stay away from the politics, but there was the Democratic debate just the other night, and Bernie Sanders did try and explain to the world what democratic socialism is. So I'm going to say that I'm actually a lot more of a socialist on this. I believe that there's that if it really is that they need to make money for the cost before they get popular, that's one thing. But to say that the popularity jacks up the price, I do not agree that should be the way they do that. Their goal should be to make it more popular so that each person only paying for $55, each person only paying $50, each person only paying 40, 30, 20 bucks, that will actually, more people buying it, spreads out their distribution is the word, and more distribution should be the goal. More distribution means each person pays less for it. So you see what I'm getting at here? What if they had more distribution and got some of the most popular fights, but then said because of the idea is to cover their costs, to get it out there, to get a market for it, and to promote the fighters in that fight for the next fights to go out. So why not have that be where more people can see it at $20 and at $20 per fight? Why not have that?
Well, I think it's because, I don't think it should be. Well, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and especially with the economy today. But
that's the other thing. It's kids in high school. It's you did it in high school. How much were your fights?
When the UFC, it was like in the 20s. It was it was like somewhere in the 20s. And then,
so UFC fights are in the 20s when you were in high school. That was a reasonable amount for you to pay, given that you weren't actually working that much, and were still trying to save up for college or whatever you're gonna do later. But think of high school kids today. We're now asking them to pay $70. We're asking them to pay $100, $150 for the Mayweather Pacquiao.
Well, yeah. Well, and I understand too, because when you're in high school, especially when you're in your junior and your senior year, you got to pay for your college tuition because you're saving up money for college, and you
Yeah.
gotta buy stuff for your dorm room if you decide to live in a dorm room. You know, there's
or you're trying to pay to be able to live on your own. If you decide not to go to college, then what's the solution but to be saving up almost as much money to be living on your own and getting another job that will pay you better to get an apartment or something, right?
yeah, exactly. There's that, and there's also you gotta pay. If you're living with your parents, and your parents want you to pay half the rent, you gotta pay that rent,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's money for your clothes and all this stuff. So yeah, it's very difficult. But
So it's called opportunity cost. The thing I'm getting at is that I fully believe that there are certain economic principles that are always correct, and one of them is that there's opportunity cost. If you have to pay for this much for this amount of things, then there's the average amount you might have to pay for something else. If you have to pay this much for something, it takes this much amount that you can pay for something else that you might want. And if you can get something even better, even cheaper, then it's more. The opportunity cost is more on this side, but it's that means it's taking away even more opportunity. If you were to like really bargain hunt for your clothes, say for your job, and you could get a lot more clothes, it's still taking away that much, even though you think you're only paying this much for the fight. It's still taking away that much clothes and other such expenses that you could be paying for.
yeah, and also keep in mind, pay-per-view companies, they may have different prices. I know for Comcast, like I've said before, I paid like in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. For DirecTV, their pay-per-views might cost I don't know 60 or 80 or 90. For DirecTV, I don't know. I don't have DirecTV. For most of my life, back in the day, 90s and stuff. I remember this. I had Cablevision, which eventually turned into in-demand pay-per-view.
Okay, yeah.
And what cable did you grow up with?
Right. Well, yeah. Yes, I'll tell the world that I didn't grow up with almost any cable. There was a short period where I had it, and then we had the regular shows with rabbit ears, but it's pretty much limited TV watching experience.
Oh, well, did you have like Cablevision or?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
For pay-per-views and stuff.
Right. Anyway, you should keep going.
And also the thing is, you also have to keep in mind, certain pay-per-view events are, they set them at different prices. Like, for example, there's a rugby pay-per-view on Friday. That costs like $32. $32 for rugby and
a rugby game when you could watch football for free all the time.
Yeah,
that's a bit of a problem, right?
Well, yeah. Personally, I think it's because I've never heard of rugby being on pay-per-view, so I think this is more of a guinea pig thing, just to see if it's gonna fly.
Probably is,
but there's pay-per-view. It really is a business. It really is a competition. Competing with there's MMA, there's boxing, sometimes kickboxing.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these different wrestling organizations. Mm-hmm. Even though the WWE is still number one, even though they have their own WWE network where you can buy pay-per-view their events for just $9.99, and on top of that,
so that is interesting. I was gonna say, like, I'm sure the fight fans don't like WWE because it's not as authentic. But that is interesting that even though it's not as authentic and whatever, like I think that's what the rest of us should be doing. We should be making it more collective so that each of us pay a little bit less. They can afford to charge people a little bit less because you have to already be subscribed to their network or something. Right?
Yeah, UFC does do that with Fight Pass. Like they have some fights that they do on the UFC app.
Mm-hmm.
They're I don't know what the prices is for that, but also like they're also competing with with Hollywood movies on demand, or on pay-per-view, you're competing with that. And then, of
So
course...
we talked about that. We talked about this a little bit before the show here, but...
Yeah, and porn movies, you're competing with Busty Coed number 34, or MILF, MILF, wife, finger bangers, or something.
Whatever it is.
I just made up those titles.
but I mean, the problem with that argument, I think, is that, maybe there. I mean, we know there's a huge market for porn, but that's a completely different market than anything you're talking about. And if there is a market for this rugby thing, think about it as a fight fan. Do you really think that you're actually going to get everything you're looking for when you look for a fight? Do you think you're going to get that in rugby, even though they're a lot tougher on the field? You're probably not. So it's a completely different market that you're trying to equate to each other, and I don't think that makes sense. You should be equating it to the market of the fight people, and fight fans will tune in to a fight. Anyway, if you got all the fight fans to pay more regularly, then everyone could pay far less, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but I mean, personally, I think 55 is reasonable. I even think 50 is more reasonable. But
I'm just saying this thing of competition that you said, that is true to an extent, but you shouldn't consider the rugby thing that you have to pay for a competition. You shouldn't consider Hollywood. I mean, that's a whole other market that you're talking about. And then porn just can be porn. Porn's like it doesn't make sense to try and compare it to this market. This market that you're talking about should depend on distribution and returning of fans. It shouldn't depend on each person paying as much as possible. It should depend on the whole group paying as little as possible.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, it sounds like a great idea, but as much as I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, it is it's a business, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, they shouldn't do it, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and
right.
Plus it's the whole thing about these fights and stuff. They also try to make fans say like, wow, I'm going to spend my hard-earned money on this event.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's why you always see the fights in the press conferences and the trash talking and stuff like that, and all the promos and countdown shows and stuff like that.
So you really think it would lose legitimacy, or it would lose that specialness if people didn't have to pay $50, $70, $100?
Yeah, it would lose a little bit of the magic. You gotta do something that'll make, like, for example, if there's let's say you have $100, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little math, even though I suck at math. You have $100 on you.
Right.
Matter of fact, $115. That's my allowance. With $115, Saturday there is a Ronda Rousey fight.
Mm-hmm.
But then on Sunday, there's a WWE pay-per-view.
Okay.
Like, let's say, a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble.
Right.
Or WrestleMania.
Right.
Ronda Rousey's fight may cost $54.99, round that up to $55.
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania may cost, $68, tax-free. Now, and you only have $100.
Mm-hmm.
So those two things are going to be competing for your money. They're going to be competing for your money and what you're going to spend it on.
Mm-hmm.
If the UFC does a better promotion of it, promoting their fight, you're going to go, oh, I'm going to spend my money on that. Or if WrestleMania, if WWE does a better promotion with their pay-per-views, you'll spend your money on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, it is, to fight fans, sometimes it doesn't really matter about the money. They can always save up their money. Mm-hmm. I'm good at saving up my money for a fight. But, it's just a matter of, which one am I going to spend my hard-earned money on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you got to give audiences like myself, my mom, or Gabe a reason to pay money for that.
Right. Right. So I guess that you're saying that you would put it's like a big choice and it's important choice and it's like you put your whole stock into that. I guess I can see that and I can see how that would make it special. But at the same time, think of it this way: what if you said you have 115 and it's $80 on the Ronda fight and 70 whatever on the other fight. So obviously you can't go to both. But what if they were both $40? You really think that you wouldn't get as excited for the fight itself if they were both $40 and you could pay for both of them?
Well,
If you pay for both of them, then they both get boosted up. A rising tide lifts all boats. I hate to say that because most people turn that phrase around, but I actually think that can be talking about having enough money to spend equally as well.
yeah, there's that, and but then there's pay-per-view buys. It's like what was the most successful pay-per-view and stuff like that, and but like I said, at the end of the day, I mean, yes, in a perfect world, pay-per-views would be $20, $20, 24, even 30. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like it's a business. Have you ever bought a pay-per-view fight? Have you ever in your life ever bought a pay-per-view fight? Or
Well, I had a feeling you might have to ask me that, and I had a feeling that I might have to say no. I have not actually bought a pay-per-view fight. So you can say that I don't know what I'm talking about here, but at the same time, this is an economic an argument we're having, and I feel that that economically there's a whole other way to do this, and maybe it's not as much special. I don't know, but would you? I mean, okay, you say that it's not as much special if you if you didn't have to choose between two different fights on a weekend, for instance,
right.
But we've made the movies something where you go to this movie one night, you go to that movie one night. Some people go to double features. Is it really that to go there and see the grandeur of a huge silver screen? Is it really that much not special just because you have enough money to go to multiple movies? I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess it also depends on the actor too, or the actress.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying, like in general, that seems like where your argument is going. Is that I can understand it might make you feel very special and very important, and it's like you put a lot into that. But is it really going to take that much away if you can't afford more of these fights? So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if the importance. I don't know, but I mean, like I said, it's a it's a business. I mean, I hate to sound like like Scrooge or
Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, Scrooge McDuck or like a Don King type of guy, but
right.
It's money and it's a business. Pay-per-views have got to make their money. And also fights have to turn a profit, and organizations have to turn a profit too. The UFC. I've always said this: mixed martial arts is a sport, but the companies like Bellator and UFC, they're a business. They have to turn a profit. They have to turn a profit off pay-per-views. And I mean, like I said, I think 55 is reasonable. I think 55 is a reasonable price. If you go beyond that, then yeah, there's a problem. Not that I wouldn't mind paying for it. Especially a Mayweather fight or Ronda Rousey or even Glory Kickboxing if they ever decide to do another pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
But but I wouldn't really go beyond 55.
Right.
I mean, what price did you set? You said 20s, right?
I was about to say, yeah. I think you can get as much payback and as much distribution, as much importantly, as much promotion for the next fighters with in the 20s, each one being in the 20s.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is well, of course, if you were to say that to maybe like a Dana White or a Golden Boy Promotions like Oscar De La Hoya or like Don King, they'd be like, What? Are you fucking serious? No, we need our money. We need it now.
They kicked me out of the station. Yes, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
I'm willing to be kicked out of the Oscar de la Hoya offices for asking him to lower his prices.
Oh yeah, exactly. And
Let's shake on that. We might not always agree, but we discuss it.
Yeah, exactly. We're not gonna kill each other. We're gonna go, where are you going?
What? You come up on me, boy?
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're still gonna go to dinner with each other or whatever. And we're gonna end the podcast here.
Yeah.
Subscribe on Bloody Knuckles TV, which is officially on YouTube. This is our first show on the channel. Check it out for our other shows and comment on this show as well. And
Yep, very good. And that's gonna be it for tonight.
that's right. So from Beantown to your town.
town.
This is the Beantown Beatdown. I'm Matthew Barris.
Gabe Shamus.
Vios
con
con Dios.